third year AML department. So today I'm going to talk about on the topic of Experiment-3 from neural network XOR gate. So which uses MLP for it. So why we can't use a normal perceptron for it, and what is the use of MLP in this? We are gonna see in this. So what we'll be seeing is that the data set preparation and explanation of the code, and forward and backward propagation, training, and prediction. So the basic objective of this problem is that we're going to build a two-layer neural network, so which is going to have an input, output, and a hidden layer. So this is a XOR truth table, so which are two features which are having x1 and x2. So the output is y. So in this feature we are going to have four samples, so 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1, so which produces the output 0 1 1 0. So the use of MLP and not we can't able to implement it in perceptron. It's because it's not linearly separable, because perceptron can only do linearly separable data sets. So because of that we can't draw a straight line to separate the output classes. So we need to at least one hidden layer to create a non-linear boundary like a curve or a sphere, etc. So in this, as the target architecture displays that we are going to build an input layer, a hidden layer with it, and as well as an output layer. So the first step is basic importations of the library. So we need to have NumPy and Matplotlib. NumPy is for the basic mathematical problems, and Matplotlib for graph visualizations. And we're going to use seed also. So the use of seed is to ensure the reproducibility results across the different runs. So by initializing a random number generated to a specific state. So by this we can able to get more variations, or this seed can help to get the MLP model much more efficient. So next is definition of data. So in this first the input we are going to define as x and output as y. So generally it's going to be two rows and four columns in input, and an output is going to be a one column and four row. I mean one row and four columns. So as we can able to see in this graph, we can't able to linearly separable the graph with a single line. So for this problem, or that's why only we use MLP instead of a perceptron. So next is initialization of parameters. So as this diagram depicts that the input layer, hidden layer, and output layer has been initialized in it. With extra that we are gonna use training samples and learning rate. So the learning rate, which plays an important role of converging of the graph with respect to the loss rate and epochs, so which we'll be seeing later. So and we'll be initializing the weights, so which can be in random, or you can able to initialize 0, zeros. So the initialization of why we need to initialize it randomly, maybe we can able to increase the learning rate, maybe we can able to increase the learning of the neural network. If we start with zeros, maybe it can be converging very slowly. So if we start with an random values, maybe we can able to converge it faster. So next is activation function, sigmoid. So it has been given the formula that 1 by 1 plus e power minus z. So this sigmoid is used for introducing a non-linearity in the problem, so which helps us to bring all the data sets into a single points, like from 0 to 1, as it can be used for smooth and continuous function with simple derivative. As you can see that the convergence rate is like from 0 to at most 1. So all the parameters can lie within it. We can able to visualize the data set more easily and it's also ideally for binary classification. So now we are gonna introduce the neural network, which is first we are gonna use forward propagation. So this forward propagation, generally the input layer will be getting the input and weights will be there. So by using a linear formula, we will be able to get the value for it, that it uses a matrix operation in that weight matrix connecting to the input to hidden, and hidden, which is nothing but that the input of first layer, I mean the output of first layer which passes to the input of the second layer, as in this case input 2 comma 4, for example. So input of this layer, and sorry, output of this layer, input layer is gonna be the input for hidden layer. So the hidden layer's output will be the input for the output layer, so as it goes on. So it's just initialization and application of it. So the backward propagation generally calculates a gradient by applying the chain rule, and which also used to um, calculate the error. So by calculating the error in backwards, we can able to update the weights in a proper way that we can able to converge it more faster. So the error at the output, which makes the difference between the predicted and the actual one. So in this code, we can able to see that first we are getting the error from the output layer, and we are going to find the gradient for it, and we are going to use chain rule which used to find the error for the hidden layer, and after that we are going to gradient for the w1. So it is nothing but we are going to update the weights in the such manner that we can able to make this learning much more faster. So the key point is that averaging a gradient all over the m samples can stabilize the training, and the chain rule connects each layer gradient to the final output error. So this approach allows the network to learn the complex non-linear functions like XOR. So next is a training loop. So when the forward pass is happening, the output is predicted. So during the backward, we'll be before the backward propagation, we'll be finding out the error. So during the backward propagation, each weight has been updated. So this process will be repeating until the rate of the loss rate will be a less, like we can say like less than 5%, so such that we can say that in how much number of epochs it completes. So for that only we use as so initialization of losses is there, and we'll be using 10,000 epoch. Epochs means nothing but the number of turns in this. So we'll be calculating the cross entropy, and back propagation is applied, and we'll be updating the weight. So for 10,000 times this for loop will be running. So why we need this much is because the convergence rate of this XOR problem is much more higher. That's why it is not using a perceptron, and we're using MLP for it, multi-layer perceptron. So yeah, in this visualization of graph, we can able to see that loss rate is reducing little by little, such the number of epochs increases. So that way we're gonna say that the decreasing trend. So the loss should be consistently decreased, showing the network is learning the XOR pattern. And stabilization eventually flattens as a model converges to optimal weights also. And the final value, it should be a small value, it's less than 0.1, or in another case we can say 0.5% on the whole. But for different problems, the final value can be varying. So for matplotlib, we are using here figure, plot, and titles. So after that, we are going to be predicting and testing the network. So in this, after training, we can use our network to make new predictions. So by using it, so during the testing and predicting and testing, we can able to find that our model is doing well or not. If it doesn't, we need to increase the learning parameter in the before, or the number of epochs. It's purely depend on the problem which we use. So in this problem, it has only 4 samples, but even though we are using 10,000 epochs, because of the complexity of how it converges. So at last, we are gonna, so the summary of it that we have built it. So thank you for watching.